What's going on, everyone? About 80% of stocks in the S&P 500 closed up in the green today, and it was a bull fest all across the board. Nvidia stock closed at record highs, and they actually broke past the $3.4 trillion market cap level. But we have a whole lot to talk about today because Nvidia is not the only stock that is booming. Even crypto stocks are back on the rise again, and we have a lot of action that will be on the schedule for this week. As we all know, we are back in earnings season, so this sort of momentum-driven price action isn't going to slow down anytime soon. And we even have some pretty interesting news to cover with Google, of all companies, as they are joining some other big tech stocks as they are getting more closely involved with nuclear energy. So stick with us all the way until the end. We have a lot to talk about, and besides that, Tom, let's get right to it.
Yeah, the SPY made brand new highs today, which was amazing to see. And hey, we've been seeing a lot of new all-time highs lately. We'll be talking about some stats with that in just a little while. But one stock that really fueled this rally today was Nvidia, which actually isn't at a record high, but they did have a record close, which was amazing. The last time that they were here, they actually rejected right back down. But today's movement was great, Mike, and there's a huge resistance coming up around the $140 mark with this stock as well. So that's definitely going to be on radar here over the next couple days. But if we're able to see like a really clear move and a break of that 140 mark, then really watch Nvidia to the upside. And Mike, going over to the Bookmap here, 140 towards the end of the day was insane on Nvidia. I don't know that I've ever seen this before, but there was 4.5 million shares stacked up there. I've only seen that many stacked up at one level just a couple times in the past.
And this is for a stock like Nvidia, who's trading at, again, at like $139 a share right now. That is a brick wall of a resistance level. So 140 is the level to watch for this company. Not only are there a bunch of sellers lined up, like Tom just showed on Bookmap, but this was actually the area that it actually had its all-time high back in, you could say, the middle of June. So keep a close eye on like this 140 to 141 area. It is very influential for this company, and if Nvidia cannot truly break through this area with strong momentum, it will be a rough sign. But overall, the sentiment has been pretty bullish lately, which is good to see. But when we're looking at Nvidia, it's awesome to see this sort of bullishness, but it's far from the only stock that is moving to the upside in a major way, and the market itself is actually just ripping to the upside nonstop, as today was actually the 46th all-time high for the market this year. So that was pretty exciting to see. And then when we shift over to this next chart, we can see that the market is actually having one of its best first 197 trading days in history, where this is actually the 13th best year in history, and it is the strongest year since 1997. So basically what we can see on these columns right here is on the left side, the price return for the first 197 days. And on the right side, we can see what the market does from that point until the rest of the year. And most of the time, the market continues that sort of bullishness. But when it doesn't, there have been a handful of years, like 1987 and 1929, which are definitely outliers that definitely stood out. But yeah, it's been a hell of a year so far.
It really has, Mike. I can't believe that there hasn't been more years in the 2000s where the market's been up this much. Like, every single one of these years is back in the 1900s. Like, where's the bulls at? You know, man, Mike, it was better trading back before the internet was a thing. You know, it's kind of funny to think about. But nonetheless, though, 2013's on here. It's just interesting to see. But it is cool, though, to see that the end of the year has generally been pretty green here, following a good move like this. So I think that's good, and I think that there's a lot of people who are still very bullish on this year, Mike, and we saw a lot of that today, of course, with the buying, but even the past couple months as people have been looking to buy up every little dip that's happened, right? Like, we start to see the SPY dip down, and it just immediately gets bought back up every single time so far this year.
Yeah, and it's not just SPY either. Even Bitcoin and other cryptos are starting to move in a pretty strong way to the upside. Bitcoin is back above the $66,000 level, and it has that all-time high right around that like $74,000 level. So it still has some ground to make back up, but it's more so about how the momentum is flowing. And as we can see on your chart right now, it's getting close to some short-term resistance as well.
Yeah, it really is. And I have pretty big resistance around that $66,000 mark, like you mentioned, and then even around $70,000. That's going to be really major coming up over the next few days. And it's also been in a downwards channel as well. It's been pretty consistent in this channel, bouncing multiple times. And, at some point, we're going to get a good move out of this channel. Maybe this week is where we'll start to see that real good move and break start to finally happen. And if it does occur, there's going to be a lot of Bitcoin stocks that could keep popping off. I know a lot of people were pretty upset today with MSTR's movement. This stock broke out this morning, but ended up pulling back 5%. Just realize, guys, that just because it's MicroStrategy or Coinbase, they don't follow Bitcoin directly. They are still companies of their own. If you want to trade something that follows Bitcoin more directly, I suggest something like IBIT.
Exactly. And whether you're looking at Bitcoin or Nvidia or the market as a whole, it's important to be willing to adapt. It was great to see so many people crush it today as so many different stocks and securities rip to the upside. But in the same way, it's awesome to make a bunch of money when stocks are flying up. It also hurts if you don't protect yourself on the way down. So here's a reminder that, be willing to adapt. When we see increased volatility, that works in both directions. So as always, make sure to have clear stop losses, size in a reasonable way, and focus on smart, long-term, sustainable trading habits above all else, and everything else will take care of itself. But you got to focus on those smart trading habits. But some pretty interesting news that happened today was actually with Google, and basically what happened is they signed a deal with a nuclear company as they need the power for their data centers. So as AI has become so prevalent over the past couple of years in data centers, and the cloud has been more necessary than almost ever before. That has sparked a lot of demand for just energy and power to fuel these data centers, and Google is not the only company that is shifting into nuclear. Just recently, we saw Microsoft actually restart the 3 Mile Island nuclear centers, which is pretty important, and I am not surprised at all by this shift towards nuclear. Back a couple years ago, we were extremely vocal about CCJ as they are tied closely with uranium mining, and that of course is tied with nuclear, and the stock has done very well ever since. But a lot of these companies are realizing that as the future continues to develop, they're gonna need a consistent source of clean energy. And with that being said, I think it's important to just keep this in mind. This specific news is not game changing in any major way, but it shows you where the money's flowing and how certain industries like nuclear and other what I'll call clean energy sources do have a lot to gain. So this news is more so just like a hey, pay attention to this and keep it in the back of your mind. And it's certainly not something you see too often. Like you have big tech stocks getting more closely involved into the nuclear industry.
Yeah, and I guess it makes sense because as we all know, these things take a lot of power to obviously get the AI and everything like that all done correctly, right? I know it's pretty crazy, Mike, but whenever you start to hear some of the power numbers for some of these things, it can kind of blow your mind. If you guys start to look up some of the documentaries about these situations, it can be pretty insane. But I know that the data centers are obviously pretty big with Google, Mike. I will say the stock didn't really move much today. Like you said, it's not really like groundbreaking for Google, but they did have some decent movement this morning, and they are around a pretty good resistance on the daily chart. We can see that there's been a major resistance in the short term right around that 168 to 170 mark. So if they're able to re-break that in the short term, I'll definitely become more bullish, but I'm still being a little skeptical here.
And then another thing to keep in mind is that this first reactor that Google is getting involved in is only expected to get online by 2030, so it'll take some time. But either way, we just wanted to bring this news up as we felt that it was important. But in a more immediate sense, there are some very close stocks that you should keep on your radar this week, and they're reporting earnings. We are in earnings season. We can see for tomorrow, we do have Walgreens, United Health, United Airlines, Interactive Brokers, Citigroup, and a handful of other stocks all set to report. Feel free to just screenshot this part of the video. You'll want to reference it as the week goes on. There's a lot of stocks set to report.
Yeah, there are. And of course, tomorrow the banks are definitely going to be in play again. I know that the banks did pretty well the other day. You know, JP Morgan reported. We saw a pretty good move out of them, and we might see some better moves even out of Citigroup and a couple of the others tomorrow, like Bank of America. So definitely have these stocks on the radar. And Mike, the economic rundown for tomorrow is pretty empty as well. There's some more Fed speakers. I know Kashkari spoke today and pretty much said that they're looking for modest cuts coming, which of course we already knew, right? What a good headline. But nonetheless, tomorrow, just expect some more Fed speakers.
I love the empty economic schedule weeks because you could really focus not only on price action, but in a week like this, you could really focus on the earnings aspect of the market, which makes for some of the most explosive moves we see. And especially when you have companies set to report like the big banks, but also big tech powerhouses like Netflix, it'll make for an exciting week, no doubt. But as we look closer at SPY right now, the market is at all-time highs. Tom, what do you have for key levels and charting analysis for tomorrow?
Yeah, intraday today, I saw a lot of wicks touching right around this 583.50 mark. So I'm going to be watching that as a bit of support for tomorrow. I did notice some hits also right around 584. So watch for that. 585 was going to be my main resistance today. We hit it right around close. So make sure that we re-break 585 tomorrow if you are looking to continue to ride this momentum up. But as we drop tomorrow, like I said, I'm watching 583.50, 582.50, and then below that, pretty much it's a clear shot down to around 580 and then at 578 below there. But it's awesome to see these new highs, Mike. Hopefully the SPY doesn't give these back with some of these earnings that might shock some traders over the next couple days.
It'll be an exciting week. All right, well, let's get right into some setups and predictions then. A stock I'm watching very closely is Palantir, and some people might not be too happy with this analysis right here, but Palantir is a stock I love. I hold this company for the long term, and I'm very excited to see what it will do going forward. But it is getting to the point where it's a little bit overbought in the short term. The stock has been ripping nonstop, especially since June. And even if you look at it on a more like short-term basis, the stock has really been exploding ever since like September. Like it's just like up nonstop, and it's getting to the point now where yes, it's not only overbought, but it tried to run up on a day where most other stocks did very well, and Palantir had a great open today, but even with everything that was working for it, it still got rejected in a major way. This price action right around open does not send a good signal. Again, you had Palantir try to break out on a day where the entire market was ripping to the upside, and a lot of big tech stocks were too. Palantir touched that like $44.40 area and got rejected in a major way, and I think this ultimately shows that investors are just locking in profits. Palantir was only closed down on the day by like 0.25%, which I like because it's not yet to the point where it has pulled back too much. But I just think that we're going to see more profit taking with this stock as the week unfolds. And especially if we see like a break below that like $43 area, I really wouldn't be surprised if we saw a pullback down to like 42 or maybe even lower, depending on how the sentiment with the market as a whole unfolds.
Yeah, I could see a pullback like that happening as well, Mike. And of course, it's all the way up right around that high from COVID. It had very good movement right whenever it IPO'd during 2020 and exploded and actually hit a high right around $45. And guess what? We go to the Bookmap on Palantir, and once again, $45 is major, Mike. We talked about Nvidia earlier having a major level overhead, but even Palantir. Now, this is a stock that's not as popular as Nvidia, granted. Granted, it's pretty popular though. There was 359,000 shares stacked at 45 today there, and I've seen those stacked there for a little while now as people watch for this new all-time high. So just be ready that level overhead is going to be crazy, and there's a lot of sellers stacked up there. But overall, Mike, I like your play with Palantir. I'm going to keep watching that in the short term. With my play today, it's a little bit more simple, right? More of a momentum play, and I'm looking at a firm in the short term. There's a lot of growth stocks that are popping off right now, and we're going to mention quite a bit. But a firm was great today. If they're able to break above $50 tomorrow, then watch them up. That's a huge psychological level coming up.
Big time. All right. Another stock that is close on watch is Celsius, and it is to the upside. I've been talking about this stock a good amount over the past week or so. It's very oversold in the grand scheme of things, and it's at that point where the momentum is starting to shift back towards the bulls' favor. The stock closed up a little bit over 6% on the day, and it's getting close to testing some recent resistance right around that $35.40 area. If we could see a strong break through that, I would really like the reward to risk trading this stock to the upside. Just be aware of the resistance right around $37 a share, which was actually the high in pre-market on Friday. But the price action intraday plus the grand scheme of things in terms of price action and positioning with this one really has this stock close on watch.
I do too, and I really like the daily chart with this stock. The support coming up here that it's bouncing right around is major. We've seen a lot of big bounces on this stock in the past at this level, and the price action that we're seeing is pretty crazy. Like, of course, Friday, it pulled back quite a bit. I'm sure that freaked a lot of people out, but just realize as it starts to bounce up off of this base, there's going to be a little bit of volatility. It probably just won't be straight up, but a lot of the price action is looking great, and I thought today was a great recovery for it. With my next play, Mike, this is a bit of a more boring stock, but granted, it does have some pretty great moves on the options market, and that's Lowe's, which was up 1.8% today. Lowe's also made new all-time highs, which was pretty nuts. This stock just keeps blasting off, and if we see another break above the high of day tomorrow, I'm going to keep watching it up. It's a nice, slow, consistent mover that could start to, trend in a pretty good way for, weeks to months at a time, and right now it's in one of those very nice trends.
Beautiful. And yeah, the trend has been so consistent too. And it's one of those companies that isn't as crazy as, let's say, Affirm or Celsius or Palantir, which is nice to have in the mix. So good stuff there. And besides that, let's get right into today's momentum plays. With the first one, we have SoFi to the upside.
Yeah, this was one of those growth stocks that really exploded today, and it broke above $10 a share. If it's able to break above $10.10 tomorrow, then keep watching SoFi up.
All right, with the next one, we have Coinbase, also to the upside.
Yeah, coin was exploding as Bitcoin popped off, and it's actually at a crazy level, $200 a share. So if it's able to break that, then watch coin up again.
And then with the last one, we have Qualcomm for both directions.
Yeah, a lot of the chip stocks today did amazing. So if Qualcomm's able to break 180, then go ahead and watch them back up. But I did see a pretty good intraday support here, just under 175. So if they break under 174, then watch them back down.
All right, so we have the downside level for a potential move lower. We have the upside level for a potential move higher. This is for Qualcomm. Don't forget about the upside levels with Coinbase and SoFi. Either way, these three stocks are on watch for potential day trades tomorrow, if and only if they break through the levels Tom listed. The more consistent they move and the stronger they move, the better the setups become. So keep them close on watch. And then once we're done with this, it's now about that time for today's $692,000 big money trade. And we are looking at ticker symbol ODFL. So this is a boring company that most people have probably never heard about before. It's Old Dominion Freight Line, and it actually had a pretty good day today. And the big money bought the 190 strike call options that expire on January 17th of 2025. So while this company isn't as exciting as a fast-growing tech stock, seeing and observing big money trades is still important and exciting. These options are deep in the money, and they have a good amount of time to them, which makes for some pretty high-quality options. At the same time, the stock is building more and more bullish momentum, especially with the resistance around that $205 area. I like how the stock has been making higher lows ever since June, which is really good. And even when we zoom out even further, this stock has been making higher lows very consistently ever since like June of 2022. So that's really great to see. Either way, this stock will move a little bit slower and choppier than most volatile tech stocks. But either way, keep it close on watch.
Yeah, and here's my big thing with Old Dominion right now is that it's bouncing off of an amazing support. Like this 180 to 185 area has been pretty crucial on this stock. You can see multiple times over the past couple years where this stock bounces off of these lower ranges and comes up to test 210 plus. And I think that's really where the target is here. I don't think that you need to necessarily hold this and try to target 250 or 230 or anything like that. Even just a nice consistent move back into these recent highs around that 210 to 215 mark would be amazing for these 190 calls. There's plenty of time to let this happen. One concern for me is that if this stock does pull back to recent support and starts to bounce off of it, that's where it's like, hey, you might need to have some wiggle room to, let this thing bounce off of support if it does do that again. But I do like it in the short term. There's a lot of good momentum, and I could see it getting up here in the short term, even as long as this momentum continues in the way it does. Old Dominion's a pretty popular freight line, and I'm sure you guys see them on the highway sometimes driving around.
Alrighty, so keep it close on watch going forward, but we are set for a very, very exciting week. The market's at all-time highs. Nvidia's at a $3.4 trillion market cap. Earnings season is back in action. We have an election very soon, and things are heating up in a pretty exciting way. So, as always, let's remember to focus on smart, long-term, sustainable trading habits. We have a bunch of great free information listed in the Key Lessons channel of the StockedUp Discord. Feel free to take the time to read through that because focusing on the fundamentals is one of the best things you can do. I know, focusing and trying to learn on, new advanced complex strategies can be very exciting, but just like many other things in life, you have to make sure those fundamental concepts are really nailed down in a strong way before anything else. So definitely check that out. But while we're in the Discord, let's also give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, Isaiah, who had a great month, and he posted a great screenshot as well. So huge shout out to you, Isaiah. I know you're brand new to the community, so keep up the great work going forward. As you guys have seen us reference, I don't even know how many times, hundreds of times, we showcase Bookmap almost every single day, and it is especially important in market situations where not only do we have increasing volatility, but we also have major stocks like Palantir and Nvidia at major levels. Looking at this data is game-changing because you could see exactly where the buyers and sellers are lined up. What we do have is a special offers link where by using the StockedUp link, you can save with Bookmap. If you have never tried out Bookmap yet, I definitely recommend it. It's one of the best trading softwares out there, and the information that it shows you is just something that you literally cannot find anywhere else, and it's especially useful in these market environments. So if you want to try it out, now's the time. You will save with the StockedUp link. It'll be that first link in the description and the comments down below. But besides that, thank you all so much for watching, and let's crush it in the market tomorrow.